What's up, fam? I'm back with some updates, some news, a little commentary on what the Democrats, what the diabolical Dems are up to. That's what I'm calling them now, the diabolical Dems. What the diabolical Dems are up to. Um, some updates on this quote unquote pandemic that we are now understanding is actually a pandemic. And I hope you guys went in the description box from a couple of videos back and went to see that pandemic documentary where the guy talked to Dr. Judy Mikovits about all the stuff that she had going on and how Fossey and all the people lined up against her and all of that. So I hope y'all went to see that and got that bit of knowledge and education. So and I really hope that you're paying attention to these links and you're going back and reading these articles and going back and watching these full videos for yourself, because I still believe what you see with your own eyes, what you hear with your own ears, what you read for yourself, what you find for yourself, you can believe it and you can digest it, you can swallow it a lot easier than what somebody else is coming to tell you. When you can backtrack and you can follow that trail that this person has left for you, then it makes it a whole lot easier to believe, because there are things going on, and some of you already know because of the comments and the things that you message me and the emails I get. You know, some of you know just how deep this rabbit hole goes, and I don't think, well, I don't know. Because I mean, I've been down the rabbit hole pretty deep, and it's rough down there. It's rough down there. And I can't imagine that it goes any deeper, because we're already in the belly of the beast. So, you know, you got to understand, especially foundational Black Americans, you got to understand we're in the belly of the beast. You know, we need to catch up. We need to do our reading. We need to do our research. We need to get up on our history, and we need to understand that, well, we've always been in the belly of the beast, but now America as a whole is in the belly of the beast, and Americans are finding out what it feels like to be in the belly of the beast. They're finding out what we have known and what we have felt and what we have dealt with for the last 500 plus years. And they don't like it. And that's the reason why they're rising up. That's the reason why the militias are coming out. That's the reason why you see these armed protesters in the street, is because they don't like being in the belly of the beast. And they're determined that they're not going to stay there. And we're going to have to, you know, to be quite honest, we're going to have to come up with that same energy. We're going to have that same energy. We're going to have the same energy that these protesters in Michigan and Wisconsin and all over the country, these armed protesters, these armed militia folk, you know, we're going to have that same energy. You know, just determined, okay, it's time to come up out of the belly of the beast. We're going to have to get that, we're going to have to tap into that energy that the Panthers had way back then. And the energy that some of the folks had during the civil rights movement, and even before then. We're going to have to tap into some of that energy that says, okay, you know, enough of this is enough. I'm ready to come up out of here. And this time, when we start the process of coming out, we can't allow, you know, the few to steer us in the wrong direction and steer us towards, you know, all of this integration and all of this kind of stuff. We just gonna have to come up. We're gonna have to tap into that energy and say, okay, you know, if this is what we're gonna have to take a page from their playbook. Now, is it gonna be as easy for us as it is for them? Of course not. Are we gonna suffer repercussions that they don't have to suffer? Of course. But we're gonna have that same mentality. I'm not just going to sit here and die. I'm not just going to sit here and let you take all, you know, everything away from me and I just be obedient and submissive and just go along with it. Now that was specifically for foundational Black Americans. We're gonna have to look at what these white protesters, these white armed protesters, these folks in these militias and all that. We're gonna have to look at what they're doing, and we're gonna have to study it, and we're gonna have to, like I said, we're just gonna have to take a page from their playbook. But anyway, let's move on. That's not what this is all about. But I just wanted to touch on that, and I just, like I said, we're gonna go deeper if time allows. Maybe not tonight, but if time allows, we're gonna go deeper, and we're gonna start touching on some of those things that myself and others have found as we traveled down this hole that leads straight to hell. Because if you think this is hell now, oh my goodness. But anyway, let's get into what's going on around the country, and let's get into what these Democrats are doing. And let me put out this disclaimer. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's not that I feel like, or we feel like, or whatever, that Republicans don't do stuff. Republicans are just as crooked and as the Democrats. Like we said, there are two wings on the same bird, the same white supremacy bird. But again, we haven't been loyal to the Republicans for the last 50 or 60 years. We've been loyal to the Democrats. They've had our votes, they've had our support, whatever the case may be. And right now, it's the Democrats that are doing things and pushing things that are harming us, or that will harm us in the future. So that's the reason why the focus is on them, is because right now, they're the ones doing the most. You understand? They're the ones being extra, extra special right now. Now, are some Republicans involved? Yes. But not right now at the level of involvement from the Democrats. Because as I've said before, this Rona has exposed everybody. Everybody is being exposed. Rona putting everybody on Front Street. And we have to understand that if we sleep during this time and we're not aware and we don't pay attention, or we get stuck in fear, we get stuck in panic mode or whatever, and we're willing to trade a lot of our what this is how the dominant society says it, that we trade our rights for a certain amount of security or a certain feeling of security, which that security later on down the road ends up being a trap. It ends up being a control mechanism for those that are higher up that want to control the masses. Just like with 9/11. Look at all the stuff, because we were supposed to be in a state of emergency and everybody was panicked, and, and mainstream media had everybody so scared that this is a terrorist attack and the terrorist is coming to get us and all of this. Because of that, they were able to get a lot of things passed that they ordinarily would not have been able to slip in on us, under the guise of security, under the guise of national security. The Patriot Act, all of this stuff that was going on with TSA, just, all kinds of little stuff they were able to slip in because they used that so-called crisis, that state of emergency, to slip stuff in. And that's what they're doing now. There are things that they want to get passed. There are things that they want to get done. There are controls that they want to put in place. And they're using this so-called pandemic to do that. And once this whole episode is over, and we call ourselves trying to get back to normal, those things and those measures and those laws that were put in place, they're going to still be there. And later on down the road, they will be used as mechanisms of control against us. So that's the reason why we got to be aware. We got to pay attention. We got to know what's going on. And we got to fight back. We got to oppose this stuff. Because none of this stuff is for our safety. None of this stuff is for our security. All of this stuff that's going on as far as Rona is concerned, none of this stuff is for for our health. All of this stuff is so that the folks that are in power can remain in power, and so that they can get more and more control and power. So that's the reason why we have to pay attention. We have to research. We have to read. We have to listen to this one, and we have to listen to that one, and we have to glean all of these little jewels of knowledge, because knowledge is power if you know how to use it. So that's the reason why you need to know what these folks around you are doing, and all of this little underhanded, backhanded, covert, undercover stuff that they're trying to pull right now. So, as you know, a lot of states are starting to open back up. A lot of states are not. And then it's also trickling down in the counties. And you have states that are supposed to be opening up, but you have counties within those states that refuse to open up. So, it's just it's just a mess. It's just a mess. And as we've already covered and we've already talked about, you've got all these Democratic governors that are doing all of this different stuff, all of this strange stuff. You have Gavin Newsom in over there in California. They're talking about extending this thing out as far as sometime in August, maybe all the way through August to sometime if it's through August, then that means we're looking at maybe the end of August, the 1st of September before they fully start opening back up. You got New York. Cuomo has extended the stay-at-home orders. You got different ones that are bearing down. You got a governor in one of those states. I gotta go back and read which one it was. That if I'm not mistaken, I think that it was some folks in the government sued the state. And the state Supreme Court came back and said that it was unconstitutional what they were doing with all of this shutdown stuff and all of this, and that they were breaking the law by doing it. Why? Because there are no laws on the books. I'm going to say this again. There are no laws on the books for quarantine, sheltering in place, staying at home. There are no laws, social distancing, wearing masks. There are no laws on the books for this. These things were simply issued by the federal government, by Trump and the coronavirus task force as guidelines. And each state could choose whether or not to adopt these guidelines. But they have never been laws. They have not gone through the process of being passed in the federal government or in any state government. These are not laws on the books. These are just guidelines. So all of this stuff that you see going on, especially with this governor Whitmore in Michigan and Newsom, and now you got this governor here in Washington, Inslee, and all of these, and Cuomo, and all of these different mayors, Lightfoot and Bill de Blasio. All of this stuff that you see that they're doing, they are the ones that are actually breaking the law. They are the ones that are actually going against the Constitution. Because none of this stuff has been enacted as laws. And you cannot break a law that is not a law. That's the reason why New York is talking about, a couple of the New York district attorneys are talking about they're not going to prosecute these social distancing arrests and all of this kind of stuff. And then you got commissioners and everything coming out talking about, well, if people keep talking about the disparities in the way that black folks are being treated with all of this social distancing compared to the way white folks are being treated, that you're going to put the officers at risk. Who cares about the officers being at risk? They wrong. You can't jack people up and force people to do something that is not a law. You are supposed to be law enforcement. So if you're enforcing anything, you're supposed to be enforcing the law. not guidelines. And just because you call it an order, if it's not a law on the books, it can't be broken. And you can't enforce it. So these prosecutors are talking about a lot of this stuff and a lot of these arrests and all of this kind of stuff that has come down in New York, and they saying they're not doing it because there's been all this complaining and there all these complaints, and folks have been calling in, and folks have just been having a field day up there because you can see the disparities in the numbers. And they're saying that over 60% of these arrests are black people. I think it was like maybe 20% of them or something along those lines are white. I mean, are Latino, Hispanic, and maybe 7% are white. And I think they said something like 3 or 2% or something like that were Asian. And so they're not going to prosecute this stuff. Why? Because they know it's not going to stand. You get any real lawyer in there and it's not going to stand. And then they're looking at possible class action suits and all of this kind of stuff. And they're looking at New York paying out a whole lot of money. Okay, well, New York is already in deep doo-doo. So the last thing they need is lawsuits and class action suits and all of this kind of stuff. And for folks to do what Rizza Islam suggested, folks get in these class action suits and start suing the insurance companies that provide these police departments with their liability insurance. So it's just a whole lot going on. But you got to understand that that's the reason why, that's the reason for HR 6666 is they got to get it into law. They got to get it into law so that they can do it legally. And they can take it to the next step. They can take it to the next phase where they start forcing people to do things. And like we've already reported on, in some of these states, Massachusetts, Washington State, California, a whole lot of these states, they're already in phase 1 of HR 6666. They're just waiting for it to be signed into law so that they can really show out. But they already prepared for that. So again, in LA, and this is coming out of NBCLosAngeles.com, May 12, 2020, LA could be under stay-at-home order through August, top health officials say. Los Angeles County's top health director on Tuesday said that restrictions will likely be in place for at least another 3 months, even as Governor Gavin Newsom said that dine-in restaurants and some offices can reopen. The timeline for COVID-19 public health precautions was not an agenda item at the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors Tuesday, but came as supervisors were discussing another coronavirus-related issue. Barbara Ferrer, LA County's leading voice on anti-COVID measures, has warned repeatedly that precautions in some form will be necessary well into the future, absent a major breakthrough. And that's where I want to stop right there. Absent a major breakthrough. And of course, all of these articles and everything will be linked in the description box, and you can go and keep reading them. And finish reading them. But I only want to read, certain things from these articles. And again, she says that that precautions in some form will be necessary well into the future, absent a major breakthrough. Well, let me go over here to this Forbes.com article, and let's talk about the major breakthrough that we already have. The major breakthrough that mainstream media won't talk about, that these governors won't talk about, that you have governors are banning it, governors are threatening doctors if they prescribe it. It's just ridiculous. You understand what I'm saying? And these people act like they're so concerned about our health, And they act like all of this is supposed to be be happening because they're concerned about the health and the welfare of the people. But yet the one thing that can help us and that has now been proven to be able to help us, they won't do anything with it. They won't talk about it. They won't prescribe it en masse. They keep trying to fight against it. They keep trying to buck it. They keep trying to find reasons not to use it. Okay? Again, this is Forbes.com, and this was May 10th, 2020. And the headline reads, hydroxychloroquine, number of prescriptions explodes in France. Yeah, and you know, France is one of the ones that's pushing this hydroxychloroquine real heavy. China has done some studies on it and is pushing it real heavy. And you got some other countries that are pushing it real heavy. You got doctors and researchers right here in the United States who are pushing it real heavy and talking about it works. It definitely works. But then you got other doctors that are talking about how hard it is for them to get it. And I'll try to find this for you guys and maybe let you listen to it before the end of this broadcast. But if not, it'll be linked in the description box. There's a doctor that was on with Laura Ingalls, and she was saying, Laura Ingrams, and she was saying that she was prescribing it for her patients and all of that. And the pharmacy actually called her and told her that they would not be refilling any more hydroxychloroquine prescriptions for her. And that they had every right to do that. So you know they got orders from somebody else. So, you know, they acted like they want to make all of this stuff available for the American people and like they're so concerned about our health. Well, if that's the case, then, and we're talking about, like I said, we were talking about a drug that has been in operation, that has been in use for 60, 70 years. And it's used for a host of things, not just malaria, for lupus, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, skin care and dermatological things. It's used for a whole lot of stuff. But they're actually doing everything that they can to limit the Americans from getting their hands on this drug. And I think it's like 60-some cents per dose. So there's not a hell of a whole lot of money to be made off of hydroxychloroquine. And also remember, back in 2005, Fauci's very institution, the very institute that he works for, did a study on chloroquine and it's a derivative, hydroxychloroquine, and showed how effective it is against these kinds of illnesses, these kinds of viruses. The SARS/CoV virus, coronaviruses. And that's what COVID-19 is being called. SARS, SARS/CoV, CoV-2. That's what it's being called. So there's already a study out there that Fauci well knows about that shows how effective this drug is, not only as a treatment, but also as a prophylactic. Which means not only will it treat the disease, but it may actually be a cure for the disease. So this woman over here in LA is talking about or until a major breakthrough. We already have the breakthrough. We already have it. So let's read what the French folks are doing over here. Again, hydroxychloroquine. Number of prescriptions explodes in France. Despite the warnings around taking hydroxychloroquine to combat the symptoms of COVID-19, prescriptions in France have increased by as much as 7,000% in certain parts of the country since the pandemic began. 7,000%. As reported by Le Province, a study looking at the 466 million French prescriptions written since the pandemic began in France show a huge spike in doctors prescribing the drug. In the last week of March, for instance, over 10,000 people were prescribed hydroxychloroquine in Marseille alone. Following research conducted in China, a French doctor, Didier Raoult, head of the IHU, the Institute of Infectious Diseases in Marseille, claimed at the beginning of March that he had successfully treated patients suffering from coronavirus with the drug. Hydroxychloroquine is an anti-malarial drug also used to treat people suffering from lupus. It is sold under its trader name of Plaquenil in France. Now, that's all of that article I'm going to read. It's going to be in the description box. You can read the rest of it. But I just wanted to point out that since this thing began in France, the number of prescriptions for this stuff has exploded and has jumped up over 7,000%. So the French understand. The Chinese understand. We got doctors here in Texas and in other places that understand that this stuff works, especially when you put it with azithromycin and zinc. When you use those three together, I've heard doctors talk about how, in a few hours, how patients start breathing better because, see, that's what this thing does. It attacks the cells. It messes with the blood. It takes the oxygen out of the blood. So actually these people are suffocating because their blood can't get the oxygen that it needs. So based on what I've heard some doctors say, within hours, people are breathing better. Within a day or two, the symptoms are pretty much gone. Fevers are gone. And within a 5 to 7 day period, these people are fine. And these are the people that are infected and actually show symptoms and actually start getting worse. We're not going to talk about all the studies that are coming out showing now that so many more people were infected than what we thought. And those people never got sick. And if they did, they never got sick enough to go to a hospital or anything like that. They got sick with it. Their immune systems did what they were supposed to do. They developed the antibodies for it or whatever. They got over it and they kept it pushing. Okay? So this is the breakthrough. But nobody in mainstream media, the Democrats, nobody wants to talk about this. Fossey, none of these folks want to talk about this. So they're suppressing this drug that can help all of these people. They are suppressing this drug that could have possibly saved a whole lot of lives. They are suppressing this drug. A drug that has already been proven to be safe, a drug that has that's already been on the FDA approved list for over 60 years, 70 years. But this is how diabolical these people are. So while they're over here on this hand trying to suppress the very treatment, the very medication that can help you, on this hand over here, they telling you, but you need to shelter in place. You need to stay at home. You need to wear masks. You need to quarantine. We need to trace you and track you and all of that for your health. But if you were really concerned about my health, then why are you making it so hard for patients to get this treatment? Okay? Now, let's go a little bit further. And let's get into some more stuff that the diabolical Dems have been up to, that they've been working on secretly, you know what I'm saying, that they thought we might never find out about. Because, we weren't supposed to find out about RH6666 until there was nothing that we could do about it. We weren't supposed to find out about that. Okay, so let's see what else the Dems are up to that we're not supposed to be finding out about. All right. I'm looking for my article so I can upload my article. And this one is coming out of USA Today. All right. USA Today. This was May 15th, 2020. Maureen Group and Ledyard King, and it's in the politics section. House passes $3 trillion coronavirus stimulus plan, faces book pushback in Republican-led Senate. So a couple of days ago, well, maybe 5-6 days ago, Nancy Pelosi shows up all of a sudden out of nowhere with an 1,800-page, $3 trillion stimulus bill, and she gives it to the House. This is what they were supposed to be working on secretly that nobody knew anything about. And yes, it's $3 trillion. And it just barely passed the House yesterday. Democrats narrowly passed through the House Friday a $3 trillion coronavirus relief package that exposed some division within their ranks, even as Republicans overwhelmingly voted against it amid a veto threat from the White House. So Trump is already talking about vetoing this thing, and you'll understand the reason why soon. 14 House Democrats opposed the bill, most of them moderates representing GOP leaning districts. One Republican, retiring Representative Peter King of New York, voted for the measure, which passed 208 to 199. So they just did make it with a 9-vote difference. So they only had 9 votes more to pass this bill. So it almost didn't pass. The bill, which would steer billions to financially socked states and local governments. So now they want to give billions of dollars to these states. To these states who have misappropriated funds. To these states who have messed up all their money. To these states who are in debt. Ridiculous debt. Now they want to give billions more dollars to these states and local governments. And they also want to provide a second round of direct payments to millions of Americans. And this would be another $1,200 one-time payment. But because of the way they want to do it, each household, depending on how many number of people are in the household, could get up to $6,000. Was panned by Senate Republicans and declared dead on arrival by President Donald Trump. More help will eventually come, Trump said Friday, but it's going to happen in a much better way. In addition to attacking the bill as a liberal wish list, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican in Kentucky, and other Republicans say they want to see the results of the trillions of stimulus dollars already approved before they take up another package. Well, see, they won't be able to see the results until we start opening back up. Opening back up so people can open their businesses. So people can go spend money. So people can go, put into the economy. So that's what they're waiting for. There are elements in it working with Republicans that could pass. Oklahoma Representative Tom Cole, a Republican on the House Spending Committee, said as the House wrapped up debate. There's a lot of other things in here that aren't going to make it. But after laying down their marker, Democrats hope pressure to act will continue to build as states face massive budget holes and millions more Americans continue to file for unemployment benefits. It's always interesting to me to see how much patience some people have with the pain and suffering of other people. This is Nancy Pelosi. Of all people, this is Nancy Pelosi talking about pain and suffering and trying to act like she cares about the American people. But look at California. Look at the homeless situation in California for her and Maxine Waters. Look at the homeless situation in California. Let's take a pause. That's a question mark comes behind that. Do you think this virus is taking a pause? Do you think the rent takes a pause? No, it doesn't. And that's the reason why we need to open back up. And healthy people need to be able to go back to work and need to be able to go on with their lives. Why? Because the rent doesn't go on pause. Life does not stop just because you say we're in the midst of a pandemic. Life goes on. And healthy people should be able to live their lives. If you want to protect some folks, if you want to quarantine some folks, if you want to look after some folks, then you look after the people that are most vulnerable and people that are already sick, people that already have pre-existing conditions or whatever. But healthy people need to be at work. They need to be at work. They need to be at social functions. They need to be able to move around and operate. We don't need to get into this mindset of being dependent on the government to dish us out little $12 and $13 and $1,400 checks every once in a while. That ain't really going to change nothing. That argument was not persuasive for some Democrats facing difficult re-elections in districts Trump easily won. This bill strays far beyond delivering relief or responding to an urgent crisis, and it has no chance at becoming law, tweeted Representative Abigail Spanberger, a Democrat from Virginia. Meanwhile, some progressives were unhappy that provisions they pushed for, such as covering 3 months of payroll costs for businesses, were not included. We're going to see mass unemployment numbers continue to rise, said Washington State Representative Pramila Jayapal, the Democrat behind the Paycheck Guarantee proposal and the only prominent progressive to vote against the bill. Now, this is what I just want to go down here some. You can read the whole thing, but I just want to go down here and show you some of the, and just list some of the prominent elements of this bill. And this is just a few. You'll hear about some more in a minute. $200 billion for a heroes fund that would provide hazard pay to essential employees such as frontline healthcare workers. There they go with that front line again. $75 billion to beef up testing and contact tracing. So in this bill, they asking for $75 billion. In HR 6666, they asking for $100 billion. So either way, whichever one of these gets passed, they gonna make sure that they get something in the law that gives them the right to go in and forcibly test people, forcibly go from house to house, door to door, pull people out of their homes, separate children from their families, the whole 9 yards. So they're going to get it they're determined that they're going to get it one way or the other. Either they'll get it in this or they'll get it in that HR 6666. A second round of economic impact payments of $1,200 per family member, up to $6,000 per household. $10 billion for emergency grants to small businesses through the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So just $10 billion for businesses, but a whopping $75 billion for testing. Why is it that testing and tracking people and tracing people is more important than small businesses and getting the economy back up and running? COBRA subsidies to workers who have lost their health insurance because they've been laid off. It also creates a special enrollment period in the Affordable Care Act exchange for the uninsured. Extension of weekly $600 federal unemployment payments through January. $175 billion to help renters and homeowners make monthly rent, mortgage, and utility payments and other housing related costs. Okay, well, how are you going to dispense this 175 billion if it's supposed to be there to help people with their rent and their mortgages and all of that? How are you going to dispense this money if you're only giving out that one-time payment again of $1,200? How are you going to dispense this 175 if it's supposed to be meant to help people pay rent, mortgages, utilities, and all of that? But, that's just some of the things that are in this bill. Now, you have to remember, this bill is 1,800 pages long. 1,800. So one person, it will probably take you a couple of days, maybe a week, depending on how fast you read and how much you want to read and all of that, to read this bill. And then, of course, they're going to use all this language that you may not understand, or that you may, because they're using political or legal language. So it may be some stuff that you may not understand, but it would take a minute to read this thing. Okay? But luckily, some people have, so they can break it down. But that's all I want to read out of this USA Today article. Of course, it'll be linked. You can go read the whole entire article. But I want to move on and show you some of the other stuff that's in this bill. Okay? So let's go over here to NewYorkDailyNews.com. And let's get a little whiff of what else is in this bill. Okay? $3 trillion coronavirus relief stimulus bill. Okay? Introduced by Nancy Pelosi, and now it has narrowly passed the House. Again, this is coming from NYDailyNews.com. May 11, 2020, Dennis Slattery. Make undocumented immigrants a priority in next coronavirus stimulus bill, New York advocates tell Schumer. Well, we know that Chuck Schumer is the Senate minority leader, because the Democrats are the minority in the Senate and they are the majority in the House. So the Democrats run the House, the Republicans run the Senate. And don't be misconstrued, don't be messed up, don't be confused by that undocumented immigrants. That simply means illegal aliens. That simply means people that are here illegally, and people who are committing a crime every day that they are here, because they have no right to be here and they have no rights here. And we know that the Democrats, that's what everybody's whole platform was about throughout the whole presidential campaigns and all the debates and everything. Everybody was just all about this illegal immigration and everything about immigration and everything about LGBTQ and all of that. So let's see what these people have to say about illegal aliens being a priority in this new bill that the Democrats have managed to get passed in the House. Advocates are calling on Senator Chuck Schumer to ensure that undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens, are not left behind as Congress weighs another federal coronavirus stimulus bill. The New York Immigration Coalition launched an ad blitz Monday targeting the New York Democrat and urging lawmakers in Washington to take action to help immigrants. Now, see how they done switched it up? See, that's what we have to pay attention to. That's what, especially foundational Black Americans, that's what we have to pay attention to. This wording, these word games that they play, this switch up and this bait and switch and all of that they do with these words. Because now we have jumped from undocumented immigrants to just plain immigrants. Okay, well, there's a difference. There's a difference between illegal aliens and immigrants. Immigrants are people who are here legally, are people who have gone through that process. No matter how time consuming, no matter how painstaking, they have gone through that process to become legal American citizens, and therefore they have the right to anything that any other American citizen has the right to. But this article is not about immigrants. This article is about illegal aliens. That's the reason why in all of this era of political correctness, that's the reason why now they want you to call them undocumented immigrants, because they want to be able to make it a whole lot easier for you to get illegals mixed up with people who are here legally. So I'm going to read the article the way it's supposed to be. Okay? Because immigrants who are here legally and who have their citizenship status, they are being helped. They are being helped just like every other American if they meet the requirements. And it's the same thing with Americans. If you meet the requirements, then you're supposed to get this help. If you don't, then you won't. It's just that simple. So let me read this like it's supposed to be written. The New York Immigration Coalition launched an ad blitz Monday targeting the New York Democrat and urging lawmakers in Washington to take action to help illegal aliens who have been excluded as the pandemic wreaked havoc on the economy. New York's illegal alien workers are essential in every sense of the word, risking their lives to pick, cook, and deliver our food, deep clean our hospitals and offices, and more, NYIC Executive Director said. With President Trump continuing to scapegoat illegal aliens, we need all of our elected officials, federal, state, and local, to fight for every single New Yorker and make sure no one gets left behind. Schumer has little control over the upcoming coronavirus package as it is being put together by House Democrats, and Republicans control the Senate. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is slated to announce the parameters of the bill, which will be in the $3 trillion range, as early as Tuesday, a source with knowledge of the matter said. Previous stimulus packages, such as the $2 trillion CARES Act, passed last month that included a $1,200 cash payment for taxpayers, have done nothing to assist illegal immigrant communities, the group argues. The CARES Act intentionally disqualified anyone who jointly filed their taxes with a family member who doesn't have a Social Security number from receiving a stimulus payment of up to $1,200. Okay, this is my thing. If you're here legally, you got a Social Security number, you pay taxes, you can file taxes and all of that, and you married to somebody who is not here legally, then you need to file your taxes separate so you can get your stuff. Just that simple. If they don't have a Social Security number and you do, then you need to file your taxes separate so you can get your stuff. NYIC wants all people who file taxes, regardless of their immigration status, regardless of whether they're here legally or not. to be eligible for stimulus payments. That would include spouses and children who are U.S. citizens who are filing taxes in mixed status households. File your taxes by yourself. You got your social security number. You got your citizenship here legally. Then you need to be handling your business. Or you need to be going through the necessary steps to make sure that that spouse, that husband or that wife becomes a legal citizen. So that you can do these things legally and you won't get left out of stuff. Both Pelosi and Schumer have said they want to grant economic relief to citizens who file taxes jointly with spouses who do not have a social security number. A spokesman for Schumer said advocates should direct their ire at the Trump administration and Senate Republicans. So if you're going to be mad at anybody, be mad at the Trump administration and the Senate Republicans, because they want to keep American stuff for Americans, for people who are here legally, for people who are legal citizens of America. But anyway, that's all of that I'm going to read. It'll be linked. You can go read the whole thing. I just want you to let you know that, they're already talking about, getting this money to illegal immigrants, getting this money to illegal aliens, going around, going around immigration and going around the law and all of that to get this money to these people who don't have any right to be here, shouldn't be here, and are breaking the law by being here, right? But as soon as somebody black sneezes, we either getting beat down or getting shot and killed in the street. But you got all these illegal aliens walking around here breaking the law every single day. Okay? But now you want to pay them for it. But let's see what else the Dems are up to in this bill. Okay? Let's go a little deeper. Now, this article is coming out of Fox News. Oh yeah, it goes deep, and you're gonna hear a little something in a few minutes that goes even deeper than this. Okay. Fox News published 3 days ago. It was published on the 13th by Adam Shaw. Illegal immigrants. House Democrats' coronavirus package includes amnesty for some illegal immigrants, critics say. The $3 trillion coronavirus relief package released by House Democrats this week includes protection for illegal immigrants. Hold on, y'all. Let me get rid of this.
Report stories about.
Come on, shut up. Thank you.
Heroes of all types, and we spotlight our local heroes every day. But we want.
Okay, there we go. The $3 trillion coronavirus relief package released by House Democrats this week includes protection for illegal immigrants who work in jobs declared essential, and a move that Republicans are blasting as an attempt at amnesty. And you use the word amnesty. Amnesty can be equated to immunity from prosecution, the right to be here, even though you're here illegally and nobody can force you to go anywhere, that type of thing. The mammoth bill includes a section on page 1737 on temporary protections for essential critical infrastructure workers. That section of the bill allows some illegal immigrants who are engaged in essential critical infrastructure, labor, or services in the United States to be placed into a period of deferred action and authorized to work if they meet certain conditions. It also grants protections to those employers who hire illegal immigrants, stating that the hiring, employment, or continued employment of the defined group of illegal immigrants is not in violation of the Immigration and Nationality Act. So they getting ready to rewrite the law. Right here, they getting ready to try to rewrite the law or try to go around the Immigration and Nationality Act, the law as it stands, to be able to make these people, to be able to keep these people here to work, and the employers don't have to worry about any kind of legal action being taken against them. So this is just granting all kind of protections. The move was flagged by Deputy Homeland Security Secretary Ken Cuccinelli as a push by Democrats to grant amnesty to illegal immigrants and protection to those who employ them. Is it really a good idea to not only grant an amnesty to illegal aliens, but to absolve employers who have been breaking the law in the last few months? I don't think so. That's what he tweeted. And you'll see the tweet and all of this in the article. These pages of the proposed bill create a deferred action program for aliens based on the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency Essential Workforce List, granting both deferred action and employment authorization. The aliens wouldn't even have to apply for an employee authorization document or deferred action. They get it automatically. And then it goes on to talk about how this bill also wants to expand the next round of direct payments to folks who file taxes with an individual tax identification number instead of a Social Security number, because they're not eligible for a Social Security number. Why? Because they're not citizens, because they're not here legally. This would allow those checks to go to illegal aliens who are not eligible for a Social Security number and were therefore excluded from the last round of checks. Now, this article also will be linked in the description box, okay? Now, keep all of this in mind, because all of this is going to come back to you in just a few minutes. But there's one more thing I want to read that I think is real important. Now, you know the Democrats are pushing real hard for this mail-in voting. In California, Newsom has already said that they're going to do it. It's another state, another Democratic state that said that they're going to do it. I got to find it and I'll link it in the description box. But these Democratic states are already coming out talking about, yeah, you know, they're going to do this mail-in voting. They're going to make mail-in voting available to folks because people shouldn't have to risk their health, you know, just to exercise their right to vote. There are all kinds of lawsuits and all that out there. The Judicial Watch has filed these lawsuits against these states and some of these counties and telling them that they need to clean up their registrations and they need to clean up their list of registered voters, because there are people still listed as registered voters who have died or who have, for whatever reason, maybe moved to another district or moved to another state or whatever, and they're still on that list of registered voters in that particular state or that particular county. And they're saying that all of that is what's leading to all of this fraud that comes through these absentee ballots and all this mail-in voting. So understand, that's the reason why the Democrats are pushing to try to keep this event extended as long as they possibly can, so that they can get this mail-in voting, so they can use this mail-in voting basically to steal the election. and they want to use this so that they can get these illegal aliens to do this mail-in voting. Because you don't have to provide any kind of ID, any kind of proof of your identity, no nothing, when you just sending in when you're just sending in a ballot, an absentee ballot, a mail-in ballot. So that's the reason why these Dems are really, really pushing hard for this mail-in voting, okay? But this is the hypocrisy of the Democrats. Now, this is in the newstribune.com. Again, May 12, 2020, by James Drew. Restaurant customers list needed to trace contact, but will remain private, Inslee said. This is again this Washington State Governor Inslee. Governor Jay Inslee on Tuesday explained why the state is requiring people to give their name and contact information when dine-in restaurant services resume at half capacity. So he's requiring that when people start coming back into restaurants to dine in, he's requiring that these people give their name and their contact information just to sit down and eat a meal. Just to go in a restaurant, sit down and eat a meal, they're requiring that you give your name and your contact information. If you have somebody who becomes sick and they were sitting right next to a person at a restaurant, to be able to identify that person could be valuable for their health to try to save their life. So again, all of these measures that they're trying to put in place, all of this unconstitutional stuff, all of this law-breaking stuff that they're trying to put in place, they're trying to do it under the guise of they're trying to protect you. They're trying to save lives. They're concerned about people's health. Active customers will be required to show photo identification to prove their identity or face sanctions if they refuse. Inslee said the governor's office is working on the details with the trade group representing restaurant owners. Okay, now if you're going in this restaurant to eat and you have to provide them, you are required to provide them your name and your contact information, then yes, you're going to have to give them your ID. Because there's no way that they can verify the information that you have just given them without an ID. Because you could give them a false name and false contact information. So the only way they can verify that the name and the information that you just gave them, that you are required to give them to sit down and eat this meal, the only way they can verify that is with a photo ID. They're going to have a photo ID. So at the end of the day, in Washington State, in order for you to be able to go in and sit down and eat a meal, you're going to be required to show ID. You're going to be required to show ID and give all of your personal information, your name, contact information, which means your address, your telephone number, all of that. That's your personal information. You are going to be required to produce a photo ID and give these people this information in order for you to be able to sit down and eat a meal. But yet the Democrats want to tell us that you should be able to go and vote. You should be able to cast your vote without any form of ID. So on one hand, I got to provide ID to eat a meal. But on the other hand, I can vote without having to provide any form of ID. Okay? Do you follow that? Now, just for me to sit down in a restaurant and eat, I got to provide you with all my information. I got to give you my ID. But I can go vote without having to produce any ID whatsoever. So you have no idea whether I'm who I say I am when I'm voting. But you got to know that I'm who I say I am when I'm eating. Come on, people. Come on now. But that's what the diabolical Dems are up to. And like I said, this is them already starting the beginning phases of this HR 66666. Well, 666, how many sixes it is? It's 4 sixes. There's too many sixes for me. No ID to vote. No proof of identity to vote. No verifying who I am to vote. But I got to provide ID and verify who I am. And you're requiring that I give you all my personal information to eat a meal. I just wanted to throw that out there to show just how hypocritical and just how lying and how crooked these Democrats are and how they're operating now throughout in the midst of this so-called pandemic. And another thing, we've already talked about, they're already right here in this same state, Washington State. We just did the story talking about, they setting up these children emergency quarantine centers. Yeah, they tried to lie their way out of it and tried to act like that it was false and took the job post down and all of that. But we know the only reason why they did that was because they got caught. We know that's the only reason why they did that was because they got caught. So they're making it clear just on what we've seen so far that they have every intention of going in these homes and taking these children out and separating children from their families, from their parents. That's already clear. That's already crystal clear. I don't care what kind of statements they come out with. I don't care what kind of posts they take down. They have made that clear. But you got to remember, these are the same Democrats that raised all this hell last year, 2 years ago, or whatever, about these children at the border being separated from their parents. And these children being put in quarantine or whatever, away from their parents. You got the whole Congressional Black Caucus out protesting and raising hell about immigration and about the way these children are being treated and about these children being separated from their parents. You got AOC, Alexandria, whatever her name is, Cortez. You got her standing at a fence like she's so distraught and she's so upset about what she's seeing at the border. And then when you really, really look at the picture, she's on one side of the fence looking into an empty parking lot. You got the late Elijah Cummings, who was the head of that committee, when he was talking to the head of the border control, giving this impassioned speech about how these children are being treated and aluminum foil diapers and all of this. I mean, they just carrying on about these children being separated from their parents, and Time Magazine doing covers of Trump with this little girl that had been so-called separated from her family and her parents and all of this. Oh, I mean, they did all the extra stuff. But here they are now talking about doing the same thing to Americans, especially foundational Black Americans. Because remember, HR 6666 is designed to go into Black neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, medically underserved neighborhoods, housing projects, neighborhoods where homelessness is real big. Neighborhoods that are considered to be quote unquote hot spots. So they raised a ton of hell about illegal immigrant children being taken from their parents when their parents made a choice, a decision to bring them here illegally. But they want to make it legal to be able to go in to foundational Black American homes and force those children out. And of course, like I said, it will affect poor white people. It will affect some Latino communities. Yes, it will affect some of those too. So white folks don't think that they're gonna miss you with this, and Latinos don't think that they're gonna miss you with this, because they're not. But the main community that it will have the most effect on will be the foundational Black American community. So it's okay for them to pass laws and pass bills that give them the right to come in and pull children out of these communities, but they raising all kind of hell about illegal immigrant children being separated from their families when they're caught coming here illegally. See, this is the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. It ain't okay unless we say it's okay. And it's not wrong unless we say it's wrong. So just because we said it was wrong over there, don't mean it's wrong over here. So this is what we're dealing with. And I got a clip of something that I want y'all to hear right quick. I didn't mean to stay here this long, but y'all need this information. So I got a clip of something I want y'all to listen to. This is a clip of Lori Lightfoot. You know, Lori Lightfoot is the mayor of Chicago, with her crazy self, the one that just waged war and gave the green light for the Chicago police to go and hunt out and search out party goers, right? Well, this is what this psycho had to say. She was doing an interview with somebody, and this was posted by a dude by the name of Truth Hammer 8888. And it was posted May 14th, 2020. And I want y'all to listen to this.
And then you do training, particularly in the city, I'll call them licensing departments, whether it's zoning, buildings, housing will be impacted by it, planning certainly. And you pick the people to run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And then I think you have the Inspector General do some spot audits to make sure that with the executive branch, because otherwise it doesn't work. So you got to eliminate that compliance and you make it a mandate. And then you do training.
You heard her say you're going to eliminate that compliance and you do a mandate. So this is some government, this is some infrastructure stuff where you're going to eliminate people having the right to comply and you're going to make it mandatory that they do these things.
Particularly in the city, I'll call them licensing departments, whether it's zoning, buildings, housing will be impacted by it, planning certainly. And you pick the people to run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And then I think...
Did you hear what she said? She said you pick the people, the deputies, you know, and the people to run these different offices and these different departments. You pick those who have pledged their allegiance to the New World Order. That's literally what she said. Let me hear you. Let me let you hear her say it again.
World Order and good governance. And then I think you have World Order and the New World Order, allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And good governance. The New World Order and good governance. To the New World Order and good governance. Allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. That are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And then I think you have the Inspector General.
You pick the deputies, the people to head these licensing departments and all of this kind of stuff. You pick these people who have pledged allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. That's what she said. And good governance. That's what she said. And of course, this link will be in the description box so you can go and you can listen to this video yourself. But she literally said folks who have pledged allegiance to the New World Order. Was it a slip? Yeah. It probably was a slip. But then these folks are so desperate. You understand what I'm saying? Or maybe, just maybe, they are so overconfident or so fooled or so warped in their minds until they think it's okay now to just come on out, because that's basically pretty much what they're doing. They're basically just pretty much coming on out and just expose and just showing themselves. Like I said, Rona is exposing everybody. So these folks are no longer keeping things under wraps. They're no longer doing things undercover or whatever. They're just coming on out with it and showing what this is really all about. Trying to get us into this global new world order. And in order for that to work, remember, they have to kill off millions and millions and millions of people so that they can get the population down to about 500,000 people. 500,000 people. That's the reason why Bill Gates and so many others keep predicting that this Rona was going to kill off all of these millions of people. That's the reason why Bill Gates was doing scenarios where it looked like 65 million people were going to be killed by this thing. So see, this stuff is deep. So y'all need to wake up and pay attention and understand that this is not a game. This is not somebody's conspiracy theory. This is real. She just said it herself. I want you to hear her say it again.
Pick the people that run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And then I think you pick the people that run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And then I think you have the Inspector General do some spot.
It don't get no plainer than that. It don't get no more crystal clear than that. Now, like I said, was it a slip up? I don't know. But she said it. And she didn't stumble over it when she said it. She meant it. Okay? And this again is Lori Lightfoot, the stud muffin, who's the mayor of Chicago. And she's a Democrat. Just like Pritzker, who is the governor of Illinois, is a Democrat. He's from this big rich hotel family, and he has a brother that's a transgender, I believe. Yeah, he has a brother that's a transgender. But see, we're living in that time. We're living in 2020, the year of perfect vision. So for those who want to see, everything is going to become crystal clear for those who want to see. And we're in that era now where people can't hide themselves anymore because the Creator is exposing everything. He's allowing all of this stuff to happen so that this stuff can be exposed to those who really want to know the truth, for those who really want to see the truth. But I just wanted y'all to hear that. I just want y'all to hear that, and I want you to have access to it. So I'm going to leave this link in the description box, and you can go and you can watch it and you can listen for yourself, and you can hear it over and over and over again as many times as you want to. But there's no denying what she said. Okay? Now, there's one more thing that I want you guys to hear. And it puts things in perspective. It gives us more insight into this bill that these Democrats have now passed in the House. It gives us more insight on all the stuff that they're trying to slip in, stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with relief for the American people at this time of crisis. Again, Mitch McConnell called it a liberal wish list, and that's exactly what it sounds like. So I just want y'all to listen. This is Tucker Carlson from Fox News, and he breaks it down. He breaks down not just what they're trying to do as far as the illegal aliens are concerned, but some other stuff that they're trying to slip in. So I want y'all to listen to this little snippet. It's probably about 4, 5, 6 minutes. I want y'all to listen to this. Hold on, let me get it right in the right place.
The fear that many families are facing. Among other things, Speaker Pelosi just said. What are those things? Well, the first thing to know about this bill is that it's big, maybe the biggest piece of legislation ever proposed in U.S. history. The estimated price tag for everything in this bill is $3 trillion. That's close to 90% of the nation's entire annual tax revenue. And keep in mind, that comes close on the heels of the last coronavirus relief bill that cost about $2 trillion. And of course, our usual annual spending is still there. It hasn't disappeared. So altogether, that's an awful lot of expenses, and every single new dollar will have to be borrowed because there aren't any left. That means that when the smoke clears from all this spending, only China will be able to bail us out. They'll have to. They're the only ones who can afford it. China has the strongest balance sheet in the world. At that point, we will be their vassals. So is it worth it? What will we get in return for doing that? Well, we spent all day reading Pelosi's bill to find out. Too few did that. We did. And here's what we found. First and most glaringly, with more than 30 million Americans out of work, really the last thing we need is more illegal low-wage labor from abroad. Yet this bill goes out of its way to supply illegal immigrants, who, in case you needed to be reminded, have no right to be here in the first place, with billions in taxpayer dollars. According to House Democrats, illegal immigrants must have a right to have the $1,200 checks that American citizens received in the last bill. They would also receive the same direct payments as American citizens going forward. So in effect, it's a huge payoff, the Democratic Party's most cherished constituency, a group that's not even allowed to be here. And then it goes on from there. The bill contains an amnesty provision. For the duration of the coronavirus crisis, that's something I'd like to see extended a very long time, all illegal immigrants employed in so-called essential services would be shielded from deportation. And their employers would be shielded too. People who hire illegal aliens could not be prosecuted. Now, don't be fooled. This is not about protecting physicians who are critical to providing medical care to the rest of us. Current essential workers, as they are defined in this bill, is in fact an enormous category that spans almost every part of the American economy. It includes employees in food services, laundry, waste management, childcare, agriculture, transportation, restaurants, as well as any retail worker in America who works at a location that sells food or beverages. This is a blanket amnesty for virtually every illegal alien who has already taken an American job. And once this amnesty is granted, it will never be taken away. Bet on that, no matter what they tell you. Anyone who lives in Washington can confirm that. Once passed, it's not going away.
It's not going away.
And at that point, there will be no more debate about illegal immigration. The issue will be settled permanently, and Democrats will win every presidential election for the rest of your life, the rest of your children's lives, the rest of your grandchildren's lives. That's the point of this. But the bill keeps going from there. The bill would automatically extend current guest worker visas while raising the ceiling for additional ones. Democrats have called this bill the HEROES Act. They're telling you it will help healthcare workers. But as of tonight, thousands of American healthcare workers are being furloughed from their jobs or fired entirely. This bill, remarkably, orders DHS to expedite visa processing for foreigners who want to come to the U.S. and work in healthcare. Got that? American healthcare workers laid off, now they could be replaced by foreigners willing to work for less. We don't have to guess if that could happen. It's happened throughout American industries. Under this bill, it would happen to our healthcare system as well. Sorry, unemployed Americans, better get used to drawing a government check. That's your future. And then there's the long section in this legislation about drugs. The bill is strongly in favor of drugs, probably because when you're high, you're less likely to think or worry about what else is in the bill. The bill mentions cannabis 68 times. It orders the federal government to produce an annual report on, quote, expanding access to financial services for minority-owned and women-owned cannabis-related legitimate businesses.
Don't be fooled with that minority. Remember, we've been taught when they start talking about minorities, when they start talking about people of color, when they start talking about underserved communities, marginalized groups, and all of that. They're not referring to foundational Black Americans. So don't think that they said minority owned and women owned businesses that are part of the cannabis industry. They're not talking about foundational Black Americans. So just because they throw that word minority in there, don't think they're talking about you. They're talking about every other minority group other than you. It could be a white male that's gay. He's in the minority because LGBTQ are minority. White women are considered minorities. So they're not talking about us. They're not talking about foundational Black Americans. Just make sure you understand that. Let's continue.
Democrats would like to see more drug sales in minority neighborhoods. That's in this bill. Keep in mind, these are the people calling you a racist. And the bill makes it clear they still believe you are. The bill mentions diversity at least 20 times. It would order all federal government agencies, to the greatest extent possible, to hold deposits in minority-owned banks. Okay, fine.
We did that word again, minority-owned banks. That does not necessarily mean Black-owned banks. That's the reason why they use this word. That's the reason why Democrats are big with these people of color words and minorities and diversity and marginalized groups and all of that. Is because they want Black people to think that they're talking about us, but they're not referring to us. They're referring to minorities. And there is a list a mile long of folks in the United States now that are considered minorities that have nothing to do with being Black. So let's continue.
But what does the pandemic and our response to it have to do with race politics? Stupid question. In the Democratic Party, everything has to do with race politics all the time. It's the primary way they get and keep power. Race politics is the only program they have, that and more crime and increased censorship. This bill, believe it or not, also contains a prison break provision. It's like a Saturday Night Live sketch. This bill would order the release of every federal prisoner who has asthma, diabetes, or is over 50 years of age, unless the Bureau of Prisons affirmatively proves the inmate in question is likely to commit violence against a specific person. Not in general, against a specific person. Here's the censorship part, and it's part of a growing and ominous theme in that direction, a theme that will prevent you from saying or believing what you like. This bill directs $1 million to the National Science Foundation to study coronavirus, quote, misinformation, which shouldn't be allowed. In other words, shut up and stop disagreeing with our pronouncements. That's not allowed. Take another hit on your government-sponsored dab pen and submit. That's the message that it sends. But for the favored few, the Democratic Party's donor class, the bill is far more gentle and soothing. In fact, it's a payday. This bill would repeal the cap on state and local tax deductions. That would help, almost exclusively help, high-income neighborhoods in overtaxed blue states. Why is that significant? Because that's the beating heart of the Democratic electorate. This is a payoff to them. Amazingly, and you can't make this up, this bill, the HEROES Act, would also help a very different kind of hero. It would make lobbying shops in Washington, D.C. eligible for small business loans from the federal government. In this bill, lobbyists are heroes. Can't leave them out. Who wrote this thing? Probably not scientists. Lobbyists and ideologues wrote it. The same people who control the Democratic Party. The same people who badly want to control this country.
And that's it. So that's just some of what's in this bill that the Democrats are pushing. And none of what we've heard favors foundational Black Americans in any kind of way. None of it helps us. There are no set-asides for us. There's nothing in these bills. In any of these bills, has there been anything that was specifically for us? But now you see them wanting to do, you see the Democrats wanting to do something specifically for illegal aliens, specifically for non-citizens, specifically for people who are here against the law, breaking the law every day that they're here. So again, if there ever becomes a question of should foundational Black Americans be voting, Well, we definitely shouldn't be voting for Democrats. I don't see any reason for us to be voting for Republicans. So what's the point in us participating in this at all? There is no point. So I just wanted to bring you this information. I just wanted to let you know what the Dems are up to. I wanted to give you a basic look into this bill so that you can see some of these things that are in this bill. Again, don't be caught up in this word minority. Don't be caught up in these words diversity and people of color and all of that. They're not talking about you. That's how we have lost every little bit of footing that we may have gained in this country. They tricked us with these words: minority, people of color, diversity, marginalized group, underserved communities, marginalized neighborhoods. They have used those words to trick us. And we hear those words and we think that we're included in that, and we're not. But when they want to do something specific for another group of people, they make it clear that this is specifically for this group of people. They make it clear that this is specifically for illegal aliens. They make it clear this is specifically for immigrants. They make it clear this is specifically for Asian Americans. They make it clear when they want to do something specific for other groups. But when they want to kind of trick us into believing that they're looking out for us and they're doing something for us, they always stick that word minority in there. They always stick that word diversity in there. And we've already seen how very hard it is for foundational Black Americans to get any kind of foothold in the whole cannabis industry, when we are the ones that made it what it is today. But as soon as we made it big, as soon as we got it popping, they locked all of us up. You understand what I'm saying? And then they made it legal for them and for the folks that they want to be a part of it. So, of course, this link will be in the description box. This video where he talks is in Real Clear Politics, but it can also be seen on YouTube. But this article with this video in it will be linked in the description box, along with all the rest of the stuff that I've brought to you tonight. So go to that description box, read these articles, listen to what he had to say. Please make sure that you go to this Twitter link that's going to be in the box and listen to what Lori Lightfoot had to say, and realize that she just let the whole cat out the bag. This is about people who have pledged their allegiance to the New World Order. This is what they're ushering in. This is what this whole so-called pandemic was all about. Ushering in all of this stuff to get us in this position so that they can start setting up this New World Order. So foundational Black Americans, please wake up and please get this information. And please be ready to act accordingly. Because like I said, we've said this over and over again. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to rescue us. Nobody's coming to fight for us. So we've got to fight for and rescue and defend ourselves, our homes, our families, and our communities. And again, we got to look at what the dominant society is doing and how they have organized, how their own code, how they're coming together to protect their rights, their communities, their neighborhoods. And we got to take a page from their playbook. So y'all, please like this video. Please share this video. Please have these conversations, not just on social media, but have these personal, private conversations at home with your family members, with your friends, or whatever. If you've got family that may be sick or may be experiencing any kind of symptoms, please tell them, especially in places like New York and some places in California and some of these other places, Washington State. Please tell them don't go to, if they foundational Black Americans, tell them don't go to the hospital. But if they have to, tell them that they already have a prescription, at-home prescription of hydroxychloroquine, and that's what they want. They need that. They need that prescription refilled. They need to be prescribed that. You have to take. You're going to have to take a very real, very active, very proactive part in your health. Yes, let's get back to some of the natural things we do. Let's get back to some of the natural things that we do, that we can do, as far as how we eat, as far as exercising, as far as getting outside, moving around, getting that sun, that fresh air, to build these immune systems. Get out as much as possible, because that's what's lowering the immune systems, and what's making people susceptible to being sick is the immune systems are being lowered by all of this stay at home, shelter in place, social distancing, wearing these masks, and all of this stuff. Your immune system has to be open to the viruses and the bacteria and all of that are in the environment around you, so that it can build. That's how you build your immune system. Like they say, you don't put a baby, a 4-year-old, in a bubble, never let them crawl around on the floor, never let them play in dirt, never let them get dirty, and then expect to once that child comes out of that bubble, that you have a healthy child. No, you don't. You have a child now whose immune system has not had the chance to develop, has not had a chance to grow. You understand what I'm saying? Has not had a chance to interact with viruses and bacteria and all of that, so that it can build antibodies. So as soon as this child comes out of this bubble wrap, out of this plastic bubble, out of this sterile environment, and starts interacting with other children and the environment, this child is going to get sick. Very sick. Because the immune system has not had what it needed, so that it could grow, so that it could develop, so that it can become strong. So all of this, we staying in these sterile places, and we staying away from each other, and we constantly washing hands and all of that. It's not helping. It's actually doing our immune systems more harm than good, so that when we finally do get out and we finally do start interacting with each other and interacting with the environment around us, folks are going to get sick. That's the reason why they keep talking about, if we reopen, there's going to be a spike in infections. Of course there is, because you've lowered everybody's immune system with all of this shelter in place and stay at home and all of this social distancing. You have lowered the immune systems of healthy people. So, take it gradually, but get out more. You understand what I'm saying? Have more contact with people. Have more contact with your environment. And do those things necessary to build your immune system and keep your immune system strong. But again, have these conversations. Get in that description box, do your own research, do your own reading, find out what's going on, and y'all have a good night.